We are almost done with quarter 1 because today we are going to talk about module 6, which is all about photosynthesis. The most essential learning competency is to differentiate basic features and importance of photosynthesis and respiration. This lesson is anchored on the division made module from SDO Caloocan. Before we begin, let us familiarize ourselves with today's objectives. Number 1, relate physical plant characteristics to their functions. Number 2, differentiate light-dependent reaction and light-independent reaction in terms of the raw materials, processes, and end product. Number 3, conduct investigations that will show that plants can make food. And number 4, explain the factors that affect the rate of photosynthesis. In our previous module, we studied about the importance of nutrients from food that we eat, and those nutrients will provide us the energy needed for our body to work and to stay alive. We also discussed about eating fruits and vegetables as one of the ways to be strong, to prevent diseases, and to be healthy. But aside from eating healthy foods, we also need fresh air, basically oxygen, to avoid respiratory illnesses and to stay in good shape. We know already that fruits and vegetables and oxygen came from trees and plants. But do you ever ask yourself how those fruits and vegetables are being produced? Do you ever wonder how does plants manufacture food? What do you think is the process of generating oxygen in the environment? Well, this lesson will supply us the answers to the following questions. So you better get ready and keep your concentration in the following topics because for today we are going to discover the process of food manufacturing and the production of oxygen. Energy set foot in our planet Earth through radiant energy coming from the sun. Plants, trees, and other photosynthetic organisms harness this energy from the sun into our biosphere, which will be beneficial to mankind. Plants and trees need sun's energy to get through in the process of survival and proceed to the process of food manufacturing. Plants are the avenue through which energy from the sun enters our biosphere. So let us now know how it takes place. Plants are said to be great food providers. Why? Because of the process of photosynthesis. This lesson will help you understand how plants produce food and help out in making the flow of energy possible in this world. So what is photosynthesis? It is the food-making process made by plants and some autotrophic organisms. With the help of chlorophyll, food making is possible. It is the process by which plants, algae, and several bacteria manufacture food by utilizing light energy. To better understand the process, let us take a look at the raw materials needed for photosynthesis and the product of the said process. So the primary things needed for the process to happen are water and carbon dioxide or CO2. When the molecules of water combines with carbon dioxide with the help of light energy and chlorophyll, it produces glucose and oxygen, which are the byproduct of the process. Oxygen is very important in the survival of humans and animals, while glucose will be utilized in several forms by different creatures of the planet. In studying photosynthesis, we will encounter two words such as autotrophic and heterotrophic. What is the difference between the two? When we say autotrophic organisms, these are the organisms that can manufacture their own food like plants. That is why plants are known as the great food providers and they are sometimes called producers, simply because they can produce their own food. Plants are the most common kind of autotroph, but there are other kinds. In contrast, heterotrophic organisms are those who cannot manufacture their own food like animals. Basically, they depend on plants and other animals for food and nutrients. So, photosynthesis occurs in the leaves or stems. It depends on on the presence of chlorophyll. This diagram presents the process of photosynthesis. Here you can see that carbon dioxide and water molecules are being combined together and with the help of light energy coming from the sun, glucose or sugar and oxygen are produced. I have here one video clip about photosynthesis. Please watch it. After watching the video, let us now know the parts of the leaves in charge of food making or the process of photosynthesis. As great food providers and producers, plants contains leaves which will make the photosynthesis possible. The structure of the leaves are well adapted to carry on the process of food production. These are the typical parts of the leaves in charge of photosynthesis. Number one is the upper and lower epidermis, which function as the leaves protector and shield the entire surface of the leaves. Epidermis is covered with a waterproof and a waxy material which is called cuticle. Mesophyll, on the other hand, is the site where most of photosynthetic process takes place. The mesophyll may form in the upper and lower regions. The palisade mesophyll is the main photosynthetic region of mesophyll, which contains compactly arranged cylindrical cells that are made up of countless chloroplasts. On the other way around, spongy mesophyll is the region where bulk of the leaves are found. This region is made up of loosely arranged and irregularly shaped cells, wherein larger intercellular spaces are provided with fewer chloroplasts. Number three is the vascular bundles, which made up of the vein of the leaves. These are composed of phloem and xylem and act as a transporting vessel. Phloem or xylem rather is for the transport of water, while phloem is for the transport of food in the form of sucrose. Stomata is the site where gases such as oxygen and carbon dioxide enter and exit the leaves. How does the leaf looks like? This is the cross-sectional area of the leaf. Take a look at the different parts. We have the stoma, for the opening for gas exchange, the guard cell, the upper epidermis, the palisade mesophyll, the spongy mesophyll, the vein, the lower epidermis, and the cuticle. And then this is the air space for the entrance of carbon dioxide and exit of oxygen. And then we have the mesophyll photosynthetic cell. As I mentioned a while back, stomata function as the site of exchange of gases. This is where carbon dioxide will enter the leaves as one of the materials needed for photosynthesis. This is also where oxygen will exit the leaves, which is the gas needed for animals and human beings to stay alive. Chlorophyll is one of the most important parts of the leaves, which enable the plants to produce their own food. It is very important in the conversion of radiant energy for the sun into chemical energy. It also absorbs white light, but it looks green. Why? Take note that white light is composed of three primary colors, which are red, blue, and green. But in this case, red and blue are absorbed by the leaves. That is why we cannot see red and blue. However, green color is reflected by the leaves and makes the chlorophyll green. The chlorophyll tend to mask other colors and only reflect green. That is the reason why most leaves appears to be green in our eyes. Additionally, the absorbed red and blue light will be utilized in the photosynthesis since it has been absorbed by the leaves. On the contrary, green light will not be used in photosynthesis because there was no absorption of green light. Let us see how light is absorbed and converted by leaves. First, radiant energy is converted into chemical energy, and then light is absorbed by the chlorophyll. Electrons will now bring the chlorophyll to a higher energy level due to absorption of light energy. And when or during manufacture, some part of the energy is transformed into chemical energy. When the electrons go back to their original energy level, red light will be released by the rest of the energy. And then the release of energy is called fluorescence, which is dissipated in the environment in the form of heat. So chloroplasts are the ones that conduct photosynthesis. It is also where the chlorophyll captures light energy from the sun, then transforms and stores in the form of ATP. The site of photosynthesis is the chloroplast, and there are countless chloroplasts that appear in the cells that is composed of mesophyll tissue. In this diagram, you can see the structure of plant cell chloroplasts, which comprise of the following parts. We have outer membrane, the inner membrane, the stroma lamellae, the stroma, the granum, the intermembrane space, and the thylakoid. Let us discover now the function of each part. Chloroplast is made up of grana, which is the plural form. Granum is the singular. It is suspended in the stroma, which is gelatinous matrix. What is granum? Granum comprised of various membrane sheets which are called thylakoid and then piled up one top of another. As you notice, it looks like a pancake which are stacked on top of one another. These membrane sheets are composed of protein layers. So, how do plants utilize light energy from the sun to produce food? Let us find out the answers. We know already that the process of food making by plants harness light energy for the conversion of light to chemical energy of sugar. I mentioned a while ago that carbon dioxide and water is being used in photosynthesis, which will end up in the production of glucose and oxygen gas. And this is the general equation for photosynthesis. Six molecules of carbon dioxide will be combined with six molecules of water, and with the help or with the presence of light energy and with the help of chlorophyll, it will produce glucose, which is C6H12O6, and six molecules of oxygen gas. Again, carbon dioxide plus water in the presence of light energy and with the help of chlorophyll will yield glucose and oxygen. Looking at the equation, it seems very simple, but the whole mechanism of food making is complicated. Why? Because photosynthesis is divided into two stages. What are those? The light-dependent and the light-independent reaction. Let us study the difference between the two. The light-dependent reaction occurs in the presence of light and takes place in the granum. The conversion of light energy to chemical energy also happens here, while the light-independent reaction is also called dark reaction, which occurs in the stroma wherein carbon dioxide is converted into sugar. Take note that the products manufactured from light-dependent reaction will be used by light-independent reaction. So in other words, light-dependent reaction is a requirement for light-independent to take place. And to further understand these processes, let us watch one video clip regarding these two stages of photosynthesis. After watching the video, let us see the details and the complex processes that photosynthesis undergoes. Light-dependent reaction has three vital events. What are those? Number one is the chlorophyll photoactivation, wherein light energy is being captured by the chlorophyll, which will end up in the release of energized electrons. So the equation will look like this. Chlorophyll at the ground state plus light energy will result in an excited chlorophyll plus energized electrons. And the second major event is the photolysis, wherein there is a breakup of water molecules into hydrogen ions, electrons, and oxygen gas, with the appearance of light-activated chlorophyll. Here is the equation for such event. Two molecules of water in the presence of chlorophyll will result in four molecules of hydrogen plus four electrons and oxygen gas. This is an excited chlorophyll. Electrons from water will be combined by this chlorophyll, which will result in chlorophyll that are back into ground state. The hydrogen ions will now combine with electrons from the chlorophyll to produce NADPH. And the third major event in the light-dependent reaction is the photophosphorylation, which pertains to the transport of absorbed light energy by the chlorophyll to molecules of the energy currency of the cell, which is known as the ATP. The electron pair that is being freed by the chlorophyll goes through several molecules one after another. This is also called the electron acceptor molecules. The ordered group of acceptor is known as the electron transport chain. Whenever the electron pair jumps from one acceptor to another, the electron may release or lose some energy. Some of them will be some of them will be used to create ADP, which will emerge with a phosphate group to form ATP. Here you can see the basic equation for photophosphorylation. P is the representation for phosphate, and this sign refers to low energy band, while this sign pertains to high energy band. This one on your left side is called the ADP, and this one on the right side is named ATP. The method of adding phosphate group to ADP is called phosphorylation. In photosynthesis, photophosphorylation is the name because light energy is the energy that begins the entire process. NADP plus is the hydrogen carrier and electron transport which is found in the cell. It receives hydrogen ion from water and a match of energized electrons that came from the chlorophyll and eventually become NADPH. This compound for the moment stores the energized electron pair that came from the chlorophyll. Generally, the product of light-dependent reaction are oxygen gas from water, which is one of the products of photosynthesis. NADPH, which came from the NADP+, which refers to the hydrogen ion from water and two electrons from the chlorophyll, and ATP that came from ADP, an inorganic phosphate blended in the appearance of energy harnessed by the chlorophyll coming from the sun. The second phase of photosynthesis is the light-independent reaction. In this phase, NADPH and ATP are used for the conversion of carbon dioxide into carbohydrates. In the previous phase, which is the light-dependent reaction, light energy is the requirement. That is why it is called light-dependent because it depends on light for the process to take place. But in this second phase, which is the light-independent reaction, the requirements are the NADPH and ATP for the conversion of carbon dioxide into carbohydrates. As you notice, NADPH and ATP are the product of light-dependent. So it means that light-dependent is needed for light-independent to occur or to take place. Photosynthesis will end up in the emergence of simple sugar, which is called the glucose. Take note that there are four things that may take place in glucose. First is that it may be converted into sucrose and carried to the leaves and to other parts of the plant. It may be converted into starch and kept for future use of the plant. It may be used to provide raw materials wherein other substances needed by the plants will be synthesized, or glucose may be used for cellular respiration. So, here is the table for the summary of the difference between light-dependent and light-independent reaction. The raw materials for light-dependent is the water, while in the light-independent, ATP and NADPH are the requirements. The source of energy for light-dependent is the light energy coming from the sun, while the energy produced in the light-dependent will be the energy source for light-independent. Light-dependent reaction takes place in the granule which are composed of thylakoid, where, however, the light-independent occur in the stroma. Light-dependent reaction is the process wherein it converts light energy into chemical energy. On the other hand, light-independent is the process wherein carbon dioxide will be converted into carbohydrates, and the product for the light dependent are the ATP and NADPH, while the light independent reaction will yield to glucose. So in this lesson, we are able to strengthen our knowledge about the significance of plants to humankind and to our planet. We are also able to understand the vital process of photosynthesis and the flow of energy that play substantial role in our biosphere to sustain the lives of animals and humans. The food making done by the plants bring energy into the living world. Plants serve as the gateway so that energy can enter our world and be used by living things inhabiting our planet, which will give rise for the survival. And in order to sustain life, energy is needed. In the absence of energy, no life is possible on Earth. That is how significant the energy is. That is the very reason why we have to take good care of trees and plants in our surroundings and help save our environment for us to have a balanced ecosystem and a sustainable development. That concludes our discussion for today. I hope this lesson will help you value the environment so that resources will still be available not only for the present time, but most importantly for a future generation to come. Before we end up, please be reminded of the following things. Number one is your Google quiz in Google Form and Module 6 answers that should be uploaded in the Google Classroom, and so with the performance task number 6. And most especially to those who have missed activities for week 1 to 5, kindly send it now so that you can receive your grade.